This week on Battle of the Ports, we are going to take a look at Namco's 1982 hit, Dig Dug. Running on the Gallagher hardware, this simple yet addictive action game has you take the role of Dig Dug, whose duty is to rid the ground of Puka and Frigga enemies that litter the earth below. How does Dig Dug do this? Simple. He shoves his hose into the enemy's mouth or other orifice and pumps them full of air until they explode. Oh, and Dig Dug can also cause rocks to fall on their heads if he should wish. During gameplay I noticed one thing. At first I liked the way the music played only when you walked, but it soon started to become annoying. I really do wish there was an option to keep the music playing at all times. In the arcade version of Dig Dug, it will end on round 256, and there's no way to finish the game. When the round starts, a Puka will be placed directly on top of where the player starts, killing Dig Dug instantly. There is no way to kill it. Nice way to skip on an ending, Namco. Dig Dug on the Atari 2600 is actually very good. It is recognisable as Dig Dug, it plays like Dig Dug, and it even follows the arcade's enemy patterns fairly well. This was a surprise for sure. We even get music that sounds like the arcade. Again, another good port of Dig Dug to an Atari console. Personally, I don't think the 5200 port controls as well as the 2600. I'm playing them back to back and feel this 5200 port is a little slower to respond. Still, it doesn't break the game, and that's what's important. Being the most powerful Atari 8-bit console, it only stands to reason that this is the most advanced port. It even goes as far as featuring the start-stopping music of the arcade game. So in terms of arcade quality, it's the best you're gonna get on an Atari 8-bit console. Saying that, it is a little tough. A great port though. Moving on to something a little more modern now with the PlayStation port of Dig Dug, which can be found on Namco Museum Volume 3. This is a very nice port that even tries to replicate the arcade's boot sequence, although it is fake. The game is actually reprogrammed for the PlayStation. Is it arcade perfect? Well, yeah, pretty much. A lot of the early Namco games ported to the Famicom looked awful, but not Dig Dug. This is as close to the arcade experience you would have expected back in the day. A really good looking, sounding and most importantly, playing port from Namco. Dig Dug also made its way onto the Apple II, but sadly it's not that good. The controls are very clunky, making the game feel slow and difficult to control. It also sounds awful, I mean really bad. Putting music into this port was not a good idea. As for how it looks, well, that's not too bad. However, the game does glitch out sometimes when blowing up enemies that have changed into ghosts, and the stage colours never seem to change. Over on the Game Boy we get a pretty good port, however due to the system's resolution the image is zoomed in. On the plus side we can now see the cool animation much clearer when enemies are exploded. On the downside we have no idea where the enemies are until they move into the viewable section of the screen. I also feel that this version of the game is too difficult as the enemies will turn into ghosts rather quickly. Also on the same cartridge is a game known as New Dig Dug. The premise is almost the same, but now you need to collect keys to open doors. And here we go with the Commodore 64 port, and while it's colourful, everything does look kinda squashed. I also don't like the way the music has changed, but at least it's not always stopping and starting like it should be. As far as playability is concerned, this C64 port is rather slow and also quite easy. Now this surprised me. The VIC-20 port actually looks more like the arcade than the C64 version. Okay, it is more basic in looks, but it just seems more faithful. It also plays a good game of Dig Dug. Running in CGA mode only, this MS-DOS port is kind of a missed opportunity. There are quite a few things wrong with it. For the start, the controls are broken. No matter if using joystick or keyboard controls, Dig Dug doesn't stop moving. It's as if you're controlling Pac-Man. The only time Dig Dug stops is when he uses his pump. This makes timing hits on enemies a real chore. Talking of which, the collision detection is off too. I lost count of the amount of times my pump went straight through an enemy. Dig Dug on the Colecovision was never completed, which leaves us with this prototype ROM being available. It is a shame too, as this seems to be a pretty solid port. Maybe Atari were not too happy that it looked a lot better than their 5200 port. Unlike the Colecovision port, the Intellivision port was released, probably because it was developed by INTV and not Atari Soft. It's a very colourful and fast port that makes use of the limited power of the Intellivision. Overall, a pretty nice attempt. As you would expect, Dig Dug also got ported to many Japanese home computers, with this NEC PC-88 being one of them. I had trouble getting the controls to work, so I'm afraid you're left just watching the demo loop. It also seems to be running too fast, even though I have the machine set to the 4 MHz option. There are two versions of Dig Dug for the X68000. One version seems to be a port of the Famicom game by an unknown developer, while the other, which you are seeing, was developed by Denpa as part of their arcade anthology series. As to be expected, this is an excellent port featuring super tight controls and perfect speed gameplay. MSX owners received a fairly plain port of Dig Dug. It would have been nice if Namco had added the sky and flowers to the top of the stage, but I guess they thought it wasn't necessary. Casio PV-1000 is a pretty obscure Japanese console that was released in October 1983. While it doesn't have that many games, 13 in total, it does have a somewhat average port of Dig Dug, complete with wonky sound. This is Dig Dug running on the Sword M5. What the hell is a Sword M5, you're probably wondering? Well, it was a home computer sold by the Sword Computer Corporation. It was mostly sold in Japan, but also in the UK, as did CGL M5. Anyway, the Sword M5 has quite a few nice games for it, including this port of Dig Dug. Yet another Japanese home computer port, this time for the Fujitsu FM-7. Due to the way this machine displays its graphics, all the characters are surrounded by black blocks. This isn't too bad though, especially when walking through the tunnels. Gameplay, well, it's as you'd expect really, pretty good. Found upon the Namco Collection 64, this port is very close to the arcade game, yet looks a little blurry due to the N64's video output. Dig Dug even has a tabletop version by Gakken. It's pretty awful to be honest, and quite difficult to understand what's going on. It also seems like you can't kill anything unless you have at least 2 empty spaces in front of you. Let's finish up with the Texas Instruments 99 port from Atari Soft. What we have here is a fairly decent port that does tend to slow down when things get a little busy. It also seems to play 2 music tracks at once, which is kind of odd. And let's take a look at all those versions of Dig Dug running side by side.